going on, guys? I know originally I kind of mentioned maybe in a previous video that I was going to do a little bit of an unboxing and like an assembly video and kind of do a start to finish, a little review on this guy. Had to change up the plans just a little bit. I started getting interrupted so many times, I just decided, you know what, let's just get it together. Then I'll make a video. We'll give some thoughts and overview and call it a day. So it's kind of a comedy of interruptions. And you know, here we are. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Then I think we're going to call it a night. But here it is, fully assembled. This is a swag off-road table that I have paired with a Milwaukee deep cut Portaband model 6232-20. So this is the table that they make specifically for this model of Milwaukee or similar Milwaukee bandsaws. And I gotta say, I am actually really impressed with this. I mean, at the very least, just the simplicity of this design, you know, just how simple yet effective it is, how easy it was to put together. These guys definitely know what they're doing. I'll even go as far as to say the packaging was probably some of the best I've ever seen. And it really wasn't even all that complicated either. I don't know how many times I've ordered some, especially with heavy steel parts, where it shows up on your front porch or in your mailbox and there's pieces poking out of the box and sliding all over and getting scratched up and beat up. These guys pack very strategically and methodically. They use just the right amount of packing materials. They've definitely got this down to a science. I mean, from the box they use, not too big, not too small. You know, everything came right out. I didn't have to unravel 600 feet of cling wrap or, you know, fiberglass reinforced tape. You know, not that I don't appreciate when people use that. I mean, I'm all for, you know, a little bit of overkill and, you know, better safe than sorry. But like I said, these guys kind of got it down to a science where, I mean, everything just came right out in perfect condition. You know, no damage. I mean, just that alone impressed me. And then putting it together, I mean, this thing went right together, super fast, super quick. Now, I will say I do recommend reading their instructions, which, by the way, also impressed me. Just a single double-sided page, full color pictures. You know, there's 8 different bullet points here. You know, you only really have to read a couple of them. But like I said, it's about as simple and easy as it gets. You got 2 legs, you got a tabletop, 2 bolts for either side. Then there's a thumb screw with a washer and a set screw with a nylock nut. Tightening everything together, and I don't know if it was beginner's luck or what, but once I tightened everything together, flipped this over, mounted the saw, and tightened that up, I mean, it was perfect. I put the 1, 2, 3 block against it to check for square. I mean, it was dead on all sides, front, back, sideways. They definitely did a really good job designing this and putting it together, at least for the Milwaukee saw. You know, I can't speak for the other models. I know they do for a lot of other different saws. They may have a couple different versions or iterations of this tabletop. I think they even have like a universal version that you're going to see a bunch of pre-drilled and countersunk holes in. You know, personally, I wanted one that was, you know, kind of for a dedicated saw and a little bit more cleaner looking. So that's why I went with the one for the Milwaukee. But I got to give it 10 out of 10, A+ for design and setup as well. So really well done, really well made. Even down to like these miter slot details, the way they did this is actually pretty clever. They actually use the bend on the legs, which adds structure to the legs, but they also double as the bottom of the miter slots, so that makes these a lot easier to machine, you know, precisely in. And you know, whether they use laser or water jet or a punch press, I don't know, but just a really well thought out design. And like I said, it went right together, no problem, and in almost no time at all. So these guys definitely know what they're doing, and I gotta say I'm impressed with it. Now, I did go ahead and add a foot pedal to this, so pretty much the same setup I had before with a switched outlet. So I can still kind of turn it on and off, but then I'm using the pedal to start and stop it. I may keep that, I may not. You know, sometimes it's nice just to flip the switch and, you know, let it run. But so far, I'm really liking how this works. It's also really nice, you know, I now have basically a 5 or 6 speed variable knob here. So I can go from pretty slow to pretty fast with a lot of adjustment in between. That's going to be nice. The Milwaukee has a nice LED, you know, that I'm really starting to appreciate. The only criticisms I have on this are pretty minor. The biggest one is that you do have to take the saw completely off to change the blade. And even in saying that, I mean, it's one knob you take off, maybe loosen the set screw up a little bit, change the blade like you would a normal Portaband, put it right back, tighten it up, check your square, and you're good. Probably not that big a deal, though on my last one, I designed it to where it just came out of the front. There are trade-offs to that convenience, namely the size of the table you can use and kind of how that all goes together. So I do understand why they did it that way. I don't really see any other better way they could have done it. So that's really just a very minor, really not even a gripe, it's just an observation. One other thing I'm actually just curious about, it's not a problem or anything, but there is one additional threaded hole back here that I do not know what it is for or why it's there. I don't know if it's maybe another option if you're having trouble squaring this up. Maybe you can add another bolt or set screw in there. Maybe it's just for fixturing when they're making the thing, pressing it and cutting it and all that. I have no idea. It's not mentioned in the instructions. Maybe it's for a different model saw. Maybe for a different set of instructions. I don't know. Not a big deal, just a curiosity. Other than that, I mean, for the money, you know, I guess the big question is it worth $300, you know, for the saw on the table? I'm going to say yes. I do not regret buying this. I know I said in my last video, a bench-mounted Portaband is easily one of my most used tools in my shop. This is going to be no exception. It's easily going to be as much of a mainstay, I think, as my last one, and maybe even more useful to me because of that extra capacity. I mean, the work light's nice, the extra table size, the miter slots, you know, I'm sure I'll eventually incorporate those into something. So I'd say it is worth the price. Am I going to say I regret not buying one sooner? Not necessarily. I mean, you know, everything's in good time, right? I certainly got my money's worth out of the last one. I think I'll easily get the money's worth out of this one as well. Now, one thing I will say, if I had to do all over again, I probably would spend a little bit more on the bandsaw, get one in a little bit better condition. Granted, this did have pictures. It had a couple pictures, and I looked at them. And I only paid $100 for this on eBay, which, I'll be honest, for what these things are going for, especially for the new price, at $100, you're usually not going to find one that's even functional for that price, much less one that seems like it's actually in pretty good shape. This one looks like it was just dragged behind a truck for 10 miles. Other than that, I mean, all the bearing guides are in good shape. Everything's nice and tight, and, you know, still seems like, you know, it's got at least a couple more years of life in it. But I do wish maybe I would have spent another $50 and, you know, got one in a little nicer condition. You know, live and learn. You know, at the end of the day, I'll get my $100 worth out of it. That's no big deal. And maybe the next one, I'll just go to the hardware and buy new. But that's the only thing I could really say. As far as price for these tables, I think they are worth the asking price. Now, do I recommend the powder coat or the paint, or should you save the $20, paint it yourself, or not at all? You know, honestly, I think most people would be fine if they saved the $20. Although I do like this finish. It's a nice touch. I'm not sorry I bought it. But it's kind of take it or leave it. You know, it's not a deal breaker either way, or a real game changer. I'll say that much. But it is a nice little touch. Other than that, I mean, $150 $160, you know, whatever these are going for currently. I think for what these are, I think that's actually a very reasonable cost of entry. You know, your biggest cost is typically going to be the bandsaw itself, and that's kind of where I did kind of cheap out a little bit. And you can go with cheaper new saws, you know, the Wens, Bowers, even the Hercules from Harbor Freight. And there's some other kind of cheaper import style options. I'm sure those are fine. You might not get the dedicated table like this one. It might be the more universal one. That may or may not be a big deal for some people. But all said, I think they got a really good product here. And for what little I've kind of used it and played with it tonight, I'm actually really impressed by it. So just want to kind of give you guys some thoughts on that. If you're on the fence, I say go for it. You know, if you want to go like I did the first time around, save a few bucks. I mean, there are other options out there. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't believe there's too many options like this out there as far as off the shelf, you know, bolt together, mount it, and be done. If you want to make your own, you know, especially if you're already a fabricator, machinist, knife maker, honestly, it's not the hardest thing in the world to figure out how to mount one of these to a piece of flat plate stock and then mount that to a table or a bracket or something. Plenty of people have done it. You could do it. It'll save you a few bucks. It might cost you a little extra time, but you know, you could actually make some really nice, you know, alternatives to this. If you're looking just to tighten a couple bolts and get started, this is probably about the best option you're going to find. And I will recommend it, you know, especially for the price. It's really not that bad, you know, especially considering, like in my case, easily one of the most used tools in my shop. You know, I could have probably bought this years ago and, you know, not been sorry for it. I just decided not to. So take that for what it's worth. Again, there's really nothing I could think that I would change on this or any way that I could maybe even think to improve it. I think they got a pretty dang good product on their hands there. And, you know, if anything proves that better, it's the fact that they've been selling these for what, going on almost 14, 15 years now. I'm sure they've sold thousands, maybe tens of thousands of them. And I don't think I've seen any bad reviews. Or if they're out there, you probably got to look pretty hard for them. So certainly worth consideration. So that's it, guys. I'm going to call this one a night. I think I'm going to go turn in a little bit earlier than normal, but I appreciate you guys watching. Any questions, comments, criticisms, feedback, maybe you've got one, you want to tell me what you think about yours, by all means, leave them in the comments below. And as always, I thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one.